Hey QR, today we're going to do frequency distributions. So in these experiments, we are going to have some data. And so data is just simply a response to an experiment. We are going to organize them in a frequency distribution. It is just a list of the observed values and the corresponding frequency. The frequency is just the number of times that it happens. A frequency distribution is just a table that represents data. Uh, if you're in my class and you open up the doc for this, this is actually a link to a video that I found that might be good for this section. So for the frequency distribution, we have several rules. The first rule is that we are going to group data by classes, and every class is going to have the same width. The classes will not overlap so that each data can only be assigned to one single group. Ideally, the frequency distributions have 5 to 12 classes of them. All right, so this is what a class would look like. The numbers on the left represent the lower class limits. So in the class of 0 to 4, the lower is 0, and then the upper limit is the 4. In the next group, the lower limit is 5 and the upper limit is 9, etc. All right, so they should have the same class width. So to find the class width, it says that you will subtract two consecutive lower class limits. All right, so if you go 0 to 5, so if you go 5 minus 0, you get 5, and that is your class width. It should not matter which one of these classes you choose, you get the same number if you subtract them. So 10 minus 5 is 5, 15 minus 10 is 5, and so we get the same numbers over and over again. Or you can do that same math using the upper class limits. So 9 minus 4 is 5. That is also the class width. It says that you do not subtract a lower class limit from the corresponding upper. So right here, they're saying you cannot go 4 minus 0. You cannot go 9 minus 5. Because if you counted on your fingers, you would go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there would actually be 5. The width is 5 in there. So that's why they recommend that you do the upper and lower. Modal kind of sounds like the word mode. It is the most common one. And then for a lot of these, we are going to work with the midpoint. So to find the midpoint of a class, we are computing the average of the lower and the upper class limit. And so we're just going to take the lower plus the upper divided by 2. And we will have plenty of opportunity to practice that on the next one. If it just tells you the first class width, to find the next one, you're just going to add it to the upper and lower class limit. Like if it had said your first class is 0 to 4, and it will have a width of 5. So you want to go add 5 over here. So 0 and 5 is 5. And then you add 5 over here, you get 9. Add 5 over here and you get 10. Add 5 over here and you get 14. So it is completely possible that you're going to be given the first one and told what the width is, and then you're going to have to create your own. Keep it going. All right, so I have the following data. I have 40 employees at a bank, and they each have a different level of education. And so we would like to create a frequency distribution to figure out what education level is the most common here. So it says construct a frequency distribution, AKA make a table, letting each class have a width of 2. And so 11 to 12 does in fact have a width of 2. All right, so we're going to have to figure out how many classes we're going to have to create here. And so you want to find your largest number. And when I search through it, the largest one, is there a 20 somewhere, I think? I think it's 20. Maybe not. Maybe it's only 19. So the largest one is 19. So we're going to have to make classes up through and including a 19. So we have 11 to 12. It says that we have a width of 2. So if you add 2 over here, 11 and 2 is 13. 12 and 2 is 14. The next one would go 15 to 16. 17 to 18, and 19 to 20. I'm going to put in another column here, and I'm going to put in some tally marks. So sometimes if there's a lot of data, you can't just go right to frequency because sometimes you lose count. All right, so I'm just going to cross them off and put a tally mark. So 13, 17, 13, etc. I'm going to pause and I'm going to finish this out. All right, so I made all of my tally marks and now I'm just going to add them up. So in the class with 11 to 12 years of education, there were 4 people. With 13 to 14 years of education, 5, 10, 15, 16. With 15 to 16 years of education, there are 8 people, 9 people in that category, and 3 people in that category. So this is how you make a frequency distribution table. You just have to organize yourself, make your counts, and then add them all up. So then you can start asking some questions and maybe analyzing your staff. First one says, what is the modal class? So which one appears most often? So this is saying, what is the education level of most of my people? Right there. I have 13 to 14 years of education because I looked at the frequency and that was the biggest number. What is the midpoint of the third class? All right, so there's class 1, 2, 3. So 15 to 16 is the third class. So to find the midpoint, you take the lower plus the upper and divide it by 2. And I got 15.5 is the midpoint. If additional classes were to be added, what would the class limits be? So the last one I had was 19 to 20, and we were adding by 2. So if I add 2 to each side, that gets me 21 and 22. That would be my next class. All right, so I do believe we're starting with a new example. We are going to make histogram charts. All right, so histogram is just simply a bar chart where the bars touch. And this is going to be created from a frequency distribution table with the midpoints. So we're going to have to calculate the midpoint for every single class so that we can use that. What is a histogram? This is what it looks like. We have a bar chart where they're touching. All right. Construct a histogram. So we added an extra section for the class midpoint here. All right, so we have the class of 10 to 12. So I'm going to take 10 plus 12 divided by 2. So sometimes it's mental math and sometimes you need the formula to help you. So I have 22 divided by 2. That gives me a midpoint of 11. The midpoint of the next one would be 14, 17, 20, 23, and 26. All right, what is this group of people here? This represents the number of hours of TV of a group of 39 people last week. So the class is going to be your X, and this is the number of hours of TV. And then the frequency is your Y, and this is the number of people in each category. All right, so we have our data here. So the first one was already done. So we are actually putting the data around the midpoint of 11. So on this 11.3, so we centered it here on the 11, and 3 people watched that. So we took our bar chart up to the 3. And then on the next one, we had our data centered around the midpoint of 14, and 6 people watched that. So I have the midpoint centered on the 14. And if you follow that over, we have 6 people that watched that. All right, now we need to do the rest on our own. All right, so 17 hours, 8 people did that. So on that one, hold on. All right, so I'm going to take it up to the 8. So I just got the ruler out so that I can try to make it happen. So I'm going to take this up to the 8, and it's centered around the 17. So I'm going to go halfway there and then draw my line. All right, so that is the bar for that one. The next one, I have 20 hours of TV being watched by 11 people. So my next one is going to be centered around the 20, and I have 11 people. There we go. So I'm going to take it up to there. I'm going to try to... So my bar ended at the halfway point because it needs to be centered on the 20. And that is the green one. So I have 11 people. The next one, let's see. I'm going to use yellow again. 23 and 9. So the next one's going to be centered on the 23. And it's going to go up to 9. That one up to 9. Yellow. And then on the last one, 26 hours of TV was only watched by 2 people. And that is what it would look like. We're done.